Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This is Joe with the Local Search Association, and I would like to welcome all of you to LSA's webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Capitalizing on the $1.7 billion Digital Co-op Opportunity, and will be brought to you by our guest presenter, Mariana Tashenko from PaperG. With that, let's get started. Over to you, Mariana.
Thanks, Joe. Hello, my name is Mariana Tashenko, and I work on partnerships at PaperG, an ad technology company with a SaaS platform that streamlines the display ad creation process so that anyone can create a high-quality cross-platform ad at scale. So before I jump into my presentation, I really want to thank the LSA for coordinating this webinar. It's great to have the opportunity to speak to you all on a topic that I and PaperG find not only very exciting, but also extremely important. Co-op is a real game changer in the advertising industry. So without further ado, I'll give you just a general overview of the co-op digital advertising opportunity, making a special emphasis on digital display co-op advertising and how PaperG can facilitate taking advantage of it. In this presentation, I will cover the following. What is co-op advertising? How big in monetary terms the co-op opportunity is? Trends that strongly suggest that digital co-op advertising is growing and will continue to grow. Why you as an agency or as a publisher should care. Why pitching and selling co-op can be difficult. And finally, what you can do, including potentially partnering with PaperG, to make the process much easier and really take advantage of the co-op dollars that you may not be tapping. So co-op advertising, as I spelled it out here, is a joint venture between an original manufacturer and a retailer. It's a relationship through which a manufacturer reimburses an affiliated retailer in part or in full for its advertising expenditures. So it's a sort of indirect sales channel where OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, help local affiliates like dealerships, resellers, and other kinds of distributors sell its products and create local awareness about the national brand. And co-op in the U.S. especially is huge. There are reportedly 4,500 co-op programs in the U.S. alone being run today, and there's a huge variety of types of advertising for which local advertisers can qualify for this co-op reimbursement. They can qualify through digital channels, so display, SEO, SEM, broadcast, including TV and radio, print, so newspapers, magazines, yellow pages, and outdoor, for example. And many big brands are encouraging local dealers and their networks to take advantage of reimbursements that they make available more than they have ever before. And one thing I'd like to point out, and I'll speak to this a little later as well, is that digital ad spend is on a serious upward trajectory. But the extent to which digital co-op is being taken advantage of is not proportionate to that. So why do manufacturers even offer co-op reimbursement? What's in it for them? They do so for a few compelling reasons. So manufacturers seriously increase their brand exposure by doing so. They're able to gain a local footing in market without having to run the campaigns themselves. They offload to Tier 3 local dealers that actually have an established local presence already and are known in their respective communities. So this takes a lot of work off their plates. And because their local distributors are getting more exposure and more demand as a result, the manufacturers get more requests for units to sell. So co-op advertising is really a win-win situation for both parties involved. So let's explore why, conversely, it benefits the local dealers. Fundamentally, it reduces advertising costs, allowing them to deploy more ad campaigns at a larger scale than they are able to on their own. Retailers enjoy exposure at lower advertising costs as manufacturers can typically underwrite the advertising between 30% and 50% of the advertising cost. And for some brands and during certain promotions, campaigns can reimburse by up to 100%. Benefits also include brand association. So the local advertiser gets to call out a partnership with a major reputable brand. And in doing so, they are legitimizing themselves as vendors and building trust with their target audience. For auto specifically, for example, the local advertiser is typically advertising not only the larger brand and the car model, let's say, but also marketing themselves as the local source for that brand. Finally, running co-op campaigns like others is beneficial also because it attracts customers to a vendor location where there are likely other items that can be sold. So the ROI can come not just from the sale of that one item, but from others as well. And to illustrate what co-op advertising could look like for display specifically in this case, I'll speak to Volvo as an example. So what I'm showing you is an ad that, based on spec requirements set by the brand, so design requirements, was at one time co-op compliant. And by co-op compliant, I mean that it's eligible for reimbursement because it meets the design requirements for reimbursement. Spec requirements can change pretty often, and it's important to stay abreast of them in order to ensure that what you're submitting to the OEM for approval does not require significant edits before running, or that what's already run is actually eligible ultimately for reimbursement. For auto, for example, these changes tend to happen on a monthly basis, sometimes even more frequently. And elements here that are likely defined as necessary to include in the ad to meet requirements are things like the Volvo logo, the particular model of the car, the font that's depicted in the text, as well as the wording of the gray and black text, and the background coloring. Here are a couple of frames that are included in the ad to advertise the actual local dealer, along with the brand and that model of car. So while these two frames now call out the local dealer, you'll notice that there are some of the same design elements that have remained consistent per the brand spec requirements. They include the font, the logo, and the general coloring. You could be creative here with the reviews, the display of the dealer name and address. And some brands let local dealers have more of a creative license than others. It really just depends. The idea here is that you advertise the actual car and the brand and subsequently show ad viewers where to purchase that car. And as I explained before, co-op ads establish this association between the brand and the local dealer, Volvo of Oak Park in this case. And the dealer becomes a source for that purchase of the item that the ad advertises. So let's attach some numbers to this opportunity to put into perspective why it's worth investing resources into. So the amount of co-op advertising dollars available through online channels hovers around $1.7 billion, according to Burrell Associates. The research organization estimates that online co-op marketing currently has this $1.7 billion available, but purports that $450 million is just left on the table for quote-unquote lack of participation. There are some reasons that can be overcome for which digital co-op advertising isn't done more that I'll get into in a few minutes. But first, I'd like to dive into some related trends that strongly suggest that the amount of spend available for digital co-op is only going to increase in the next several years. So as you can see through this graph, digital ad spend is on an upward trajectory, which means that co-op digital advertising is as well. And that's an important thing to note as you think more critically about doing co-op advertising. You'll really want to position yourself to capture this co-op spend as it moves into digital channels. So some forecasts from eMarketer that I want to point out are that digital ad spend in the U.S. is set to hit $5.15 billion this year, 2014. Spend will be up 14.8% over 2013 levels, according to the forecast, and will make up just over 1/4 of all paid media spending worldwide. And that's up from 1/5 in 2012. And with regard to display advertising in the U.S. in particular, it has grown by $8.3 billion to reach $20.6 billion between 2011 and 2013. And between 2014 and 2017, it's slated to grow by another $9.4 billion to reach $30 billion, and that's a 46% increase. These are really promising stats that strongly suggest the fact that OEM investment in co-op advertising will steer more towards digital in the coming years. So I've laid out at this point what co-op advertising is, who benefits, and what the related trends are. And now I'd like to jump into the nitty-gritty of what offering co-op advertising as a media company or agency actually entails. And just a disclaimer, it's a bit simplified for the purposes of this presentation, and different companies do this a little bit differently, but this is a general overview. So in getting started, you first need to identify the opportunity. It's not obvious what brands have made co-op for local advertisers available, and if it's specific to a certain kind of sale, restricted to a month, etc. There are companies like Multi-Ad and LSA that house that information and work with media companies to provide them with leads to let them know how much spend they can potentially capture before investing resources and actually going to the advertiser and creating a spec ad and beginning that entire process. Next, you need to identify the requirements that the OEM has set. Many brands, like ones in the auto vertical, home improvement, you name it, that do co-op advertising can, again, have strict requirements that can be specific in regards to what the ads need to look like. So that's important to note. Then you create the spec ad, and you actually need to either commission your creative team to do it or outsource it or download a canned ad. Then you go and pitch the advertiser and discuss the opportunity. In some cases, where the advertiser is maybe less savvy, you may have to explain the value of digital advertising if they're very used to just doing print, and explain maybe even what co-op reimbursement actually entails if they're not aware. Then you have to identify what changes they might want to make to the ad, and then make sure that it's ready for pre-approval. Then you send the ad to the appropriate point of contact at the OEM, a co-op management program, or a third party that handles approvals for you. And once you get that pre-approval, you run the campaign via owned and operated or a network. And then you work on getting the actual reimbursement. So you need things like proof of running. So for display advertising, it's e-tear sheets that show what the ads actually look like on pages it's run on, as well as a few other items. And then you end up contacting the OEM or the co-op management program to get that reimbursement. So I've talked about what's in it for the advertiser and for the manufacturer, but what's in it for a media company or agency? Taking advantage of co-op makes more advertisers available to you. And generally, the campaigns that they can run and can be reimbursed for later are larger, as bigger advertising budgets generally translate into campaigns with more impressions, so a little extra work can really result in a huge boost in ad revenue. And as more brands launch co-op advertising programs, that number will only increase. And below on this page is just a sample of brands that already offer it. You have auto, you have home improvement, and you even have jewelry, so Pandora Jewelers, not the music streaming service. And as I've alluded to, there are definitely some hurdles that can make selling and running co-op campaigns pretty challenging, but you can definitely overcome them. And I've bucketed the challenges into a few categories. So the first one is lack of education around co-op. Co-op is still very foreign to many, and if your sales staff is not properly educated on the value of co-op and how they can get a bigger bang for their buck in selling ads to advertisers that can get reimbursed, they might think of co-op ads as just another thing to sell, losing sight of the major benefits. And sometimes advertisers themselves, as I mentioned earlier, aren't very educated on co-op, so it could be necessary to let them know about the opportunity. And if they haven't done much digital advertising in the past, they may need to be brought up to speed on the industry in general. So next are campaign pre-approval requirements. So as I showed in the Volvo example, requirements can be strict, so the creation of the design may not be very easy. Brands can be very particular about the look and feel of an ad, especially if they're paying for it in large part. And shifting requirements. These requirements are usually not static. They can change on a regular basis, and as I mentioned, for auto brands, sometimes monthly. So staying on top of them is very important. And proof of running. So getting proof of the actual ad distribution, like the e-tear sheet that I'm depicting with the ad highlighted, you have to provide proof that the ad is run. And if it's a display ad campaign, you have to provide examples of each size that's run. So what can you do to overcome these challenges and take advantage? If you're a publisher or an agency and have advertisers whose brands do run co-op advertising programs, it's important to educate your staff on the value of it, emphasizing the amount of money that it makes available. So invest in getting them really comfortable with what co-op advertising is and how to sell it. Because unless you understand how co-op advertising works and how to pitch and sell co-op ads efficiently, the process, as you can see, can be onerous and time-consuming. However, the campaigns tend to be much larger and more lucrative, and if you invest in the right resources from the outset, the process actually becomes quite fast and painless. Awareness of opportunities that exist. So finding a scalable way of identifying where the opportunities are in market and whom to pitch to is crucial. So cooperation with co-op ad management companies that can let you know when there's an opportunity in market to take advantage of is something that makes sense to invest resources into. Designating specialists. So if you have a sizable sales staff and you're very interested in ramping up your co-op offering or making an existing one more scalable, you may consider segmenting out dedicated co-op sales reps or specialists who can become very familiar and effective at co-op selling. So a co-op specialist you can assign to distribute lead lists and manage approvals and be kind of the go-to expert among your sales reps. Finally, leveraging technology. So in addition to partnering with data management companies that inform about reimbursement opportunities, it's important to identify ways to overcome the biggest hurdle, which is the actual ad creation process. So that's where PaperG comes into play. As I mentioned previously, PaperG has a SaaS platform that automates ad creation so that anyone, reps, designers, co-op specialists, etc., can build beautiful display ads in standard IAB sizes for desktop and mobile fast. Our partners, to give you a sense, include media companies like YP, Dex, Charter, Time Warner Cable, as well as agencies. And they're using our platform to build high-quality spec ads and final ads quickly and easily. And just to put into perspective how many display campaigns PaperG has powered, it's powered hundreds of thousands built out in HTML5 for more than 150 partners. As a side note, as HTML5 is becoming the norm, especially given that mobile iOS doesn't support Flash any longer, it's important to code animated ads in HTML5 to run cross-device campaigns. Luckily, with PaperG's platform, no coding is necessary. You can build out ads in HTML5 automatically. And with the limited release of the newest version of our platform, available only to a very limited number of partners as we're making final tweaks to it and running tests, we've enabled true object-to-object editing and, you guessed it, the ability to create co-op compliant ad designs. In literally a matter of minutes, you can create co-op ads in multiple sizes and make changes across them all instantaneously. And this is a process that has historically taken days or weeks with Photoshop or Illustrator. To make things even easier, PaperG's vision is to add branded ad designs into an existing gallery of designs that are co-op friendly by default and feature the ability to add dealer-specific information to them to make them really custom for the local advertisers. And with that, I want to jump into some sneak preview snapshots of the new ad creator so that you can see exactly what I mean. So this is the ad creator environment, and I'll navigate you quickly through it. On the left-hand side, you have each of the elements of the design teased out. You can edit each. You have the photos, you have the text, and shapes. Above, you have animation control with undo and redo buttons, arrangement, and alignment options. You also have multiple frames that belong to the ad, and you can always have more or fewer if you'd like. If, according to co-op requirements, Tier 3 advertisers want to and are allowed to run campaigns with certain tweaks to the ad, like adding shapes, text, or other items, the publisher or agency working with the advertiser to come up with the design can make those changes in the platform for them very easily. And by the way, when you create ads in our platform and want to make changes while the campaign is live, you can do so as well. The changes are updated in real time. And the reason for that is the fact that the ads are served ultimately via ad tag codes that the platform generates. These ad tag codes are compatible with all major ad servers so that you can serve on owned and operated property and via audience extension. So just stop for a second to think about how much time on the creative side and also on the ad op side this could save. And moving right along, what I'm showing you here highlighted in the ad is in-ad text editing, which you can utilize to swap out promotional information like prices and dates among other elements within the ad. So if you realize that, if you find out that a certain week the promotion changes and you want to take advantage of a new co-op opportunity and all you need to do really is change the text, you can do so in a matter of seconds on the platform and have that ad updated without having to download any ads, any files, or retraffic any ad tag codes. That's just all done automatically. Beyond that, you can make changes to the photos, like swap them out for new ones, crop them, and also resize them. You can also change each photo that is depicted in each frame. So the frames don't have to depict the same photo. Finally, PaperG's platform allows you to synchronize assets. When you make a change to one size, you can apply them instantaneously to all of them, so designers and co-op specialists, whoever's creating the ad, don't have to spend time pixel pushing in each ad design. In sum, the huge value that PaperG provides here is automating the entire ad creation process. The platform seriously decreases the amount of time and effort that creative personnel must spend on creating ads, not to mention ad ops folks on trafficking them. This enables reps to pitch even more because they won't have to wait for as much turnaround time. Internal teams will, as a result, be able to scale up how many campaigns they service. So PaperG can help you realize your rep's ROI potential by spending more time selling and less time pixel pushing, whether it be for co-op reimbursement eligible campaigns, a huge and hugely untapped source of advertising revenue, as I've talked about during this entire presentation, or any type of display advertising campaign. So this concludes my presentation, and now I'll open it up for questions.
Do you have a sense of what business categories have the most co-op opportunity?
Sure, definitely. I've heard in market overwhelmingly that the auto vertical has the most opportunities. Home improvement is also huge, HVAC companies, but auto is king, I would say.
What kind of proof is required for mobile display for co-op?
For mobile display for co-op, I would say e-tear sheets as well. But it depends really on the brand. So I would say that's the least common denominator, but it really depends on each brand what requirements they have for the advertisers that are running these campaigns. So it's important to check with the OEM or the company that's managing the co-op advertising program for them to see what the requirements are. So that's definitely something that is important to check for ahead of actually running the ad.
Do you have co-op templates requirements for all auto manufacturers?
PaperG does not have that information on its own, but there are companies like Multi and LSA that have that information. And in building out ad designs, we'd be looking to third parties to find out what those requirements are in order to make sure that we are building out ad designs that are compliant.
What are some of the key differentiators between your ad builder versus all the others out there?
So as I mentioned, PaperG allows you to create ads in the standard IAB sizes instantaneously across multiple ad sizes for both desktop and mobile. And we're building out these ad designs in HTML5. So they can be truly cross-platform and they're dynamically editable. So as I mentioned earlier, when you run a campaign using PaperG's platform and you want to make a tweak to it, that change can be updated in real time so you don't have to re-traffic the ad tag codes. Also, with the newest version of the platform, we have true object-to-object editing. So you can do sophisticated editing like you can in a Photoshop. But the difference here is that we're building out these ads automatically in HTML5.
The question is, how do you get started with PaperG?
So getting started with PaperG is as simple as requesting a demo or emailing me directly or sales at PaperG. Next steps would be kind of identifying where the need is, how PaperG can help, and what the partnership would look like, and tailoring a very specific solution to the partner. So getting in touch with me or with sales at PaperG or through the website, through paperg.com, would be the next step.
Are the ad designs pre-approved by the brands or the manufacturers?
So the designs we plan on building out are designed based on the spec requirements that we collect. So they are pre-approved in the sense that we're building them out with spec requirements in mind.
Do you integrate with media buy companies or printers?
So PaperG actually has a media buying platform as well. So we're built on top of AppNexus and have access through AppNexus to major networks like Google's, Microsoft's, Yahoo's, and Facebook. And we can run campaigns that you build on our platform through this media buying platform, giving access to top quality inventory, including the ComScore Top 500, and we can hone in on a very specific audience actually by layering on geolocation and behavioral targeting parameters. How we do the behavioral targeting is actually via data from reputable data companies like BlueKai, Excelit, Lotame, and Bizzo, to name a few. So you can actually serve the campaigns that you're creating through our media buying platform. Or you can just take the ad tag codes that I mentioned we build out for every single design that you can get access to instantaneously and serve the ads on owned and operated property. And they're compatible with all the major ad servers.
What are PaperG's origins and how long has PaperG been around?
Sure. So PaperG was started in 2008 by Yale College classmates. Our original product was Flyerboard, which is a print-to-web solution that some folks on the call might be familiar with. It's a Silicon Valley-based company right now. We have 2 offices, but our accounts team is here in our San Francisco office. Our engineers are in Seattle. And in 2010, we released the very first version of PlaceLocal, which you might have heard of. Now we've rebranded to PaperG Ad Creator. So I just want to clarify that. I know there's some confusion about PlaceLocal versus PaperG. But that product was launched in 2010, and we've been iterating on it ever since.
What's the minimum aggregated spend if PaperG does the buy?
So the minimum spend per month for our partners, for our media company partners, I'll say as an example, is $500 per advertising campaign.
When it comes to building ads for both print and digital, does the publisher supply the ad size specs and then PaperG houses those template sizes and specs?
So PaperG would be taking the spec requirements that the OEM sets out for co-op reimbursement and be building out the ad designs according to those spec requirements. And they would be accessible by the publisher or the agency working with the advertiser.
Thanks, Mariana, for conducting today's webinar. We really appreciate all the info. I'd also like to thank everyone for attending today. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact us at LSA, and we can connect you with today's presenter. For more info on upcoming webinars, visit localsearchassociation.org/webinars. Also, we're working with Burrell Associates and the Local Media Association to bring you Social Plus Mobile, Show Me the Money, August 20th and the 21st in Chicago. Speakers include reps from Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Google, and many other influencers in the space. Visit our webpage for more on that. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.